What is up, Fabrication Nation? Back on this thing. Alright, so let's get right to it. Kind of was all over the place in this video. You know, tidying up this, fixing that, you know, finishing this. So, started off with the front suspension. Wanted to get those A-arms finished. Had to make some A-arm ball joint buckets. Those buckets were just some tubing that had an ID the same as the outer diameter of the ball joint itself, and then what I did is I took about a 1/2 inch tube that fit inside of that and put it around the top, just welded it in, kept that ball joint from coming out the top. And then what I'll probably do is once I get everything done, because it's a pretty tight fit, but it's not a press fit, probably tack it in on the bottom side to kind of hold that ball joint in there. And in worst case, if I ever need to replace them, I'll just cut the tacks out. I can pull the ball joints out, put new ones in. Once the ball joint buckets were made, put the ball joints in there, hung them from the spindles themselves, put the spindles on the wheels, kind of mocked everything up exactly where I wanted it, and then just started cutting tubes to fit. Once I had one side fit like I wanted it, I knew the other side would be exactly the same because everything was centered. So I just cut two, started notching two, basically just repeated the exact same thing on the driver's side. What I ended up with was an A-arm that has, you know, a perfectly straight front. The back has a little dog leg in it, and then I put a little gusset in between to kind of strengthen that. The bolts on the front side of the A-arm are 5/8 bolts, along with the bolts that go through that center section, and then the back ones are 1/2 inch. When you look at the A-arm, I think everything's so big. You know, you got big 1.5 inch tubing, you got big heim joints, I mean really big heim joints, that it all kind of looks scale-ish, and it makes everything else look small in comparison, I guess. But in reality, it's really big, it's really beefy. It's twice the size of the A-arms that they sell for a Mustang. So once all that was done, I had to hang the struts themselves. I slid some springs over there to kind of get an idea of, you know, how tall they were going to be, how robust they were going to be. And because I was doing that, I wanted to mock up the intake as well. Intake, the tubing, the turbo. So I kind of made what is kind of like what's going to end up on this thing. Won't be exactly like that, but it'll be something similar. It'll have about that height. And so now I can kind of visualize the height of the intake versus the heights of the strut towers and kind of see it all together as a package. Not 100% on running the struts. I've got some ideas on how to make them a little bit lower. That would be pretty simple. Basically just modifying the strut and the spindle itself. I think that'll get the job done if I go that route. The only other thing I'm looking at right now is I've heard that you can run hydraulic cylinders, very similar to like what I'm running in the back, as the strut itself. And they don't run a spring or a shock, and they run these things called accumulators that will allow that hydraulic cylinder to act like a strut or a shock. And I think that would actually be a really cool setup. I could do the strut tower itself in a solid piece, and then just have the up and down mechanism just be in that hydraulic cylinder. So still doing a little research on that, trying to figure out if that's what I want to do or not. It is an option at this point, but it'll either be that or my original design with a modified strut spindle combination. While I was waiting on those things to be figured out, strut, hydraulic cylinder, whatever it is I was going to use, I decided to go to the back, try to finish up some of that stuff. The anti-roll bar wasn't finished, had to mount that thing on the rear end. You got it? Keep unscrewing it like this. Keep going. You can see I've just got them tacked in. I'm gonna fully weld everything. There's the upper section there. I've had several people mention that I need to run some kind of torsion bar right here. And I don't think they understand what an anti-roll bar is. I don't want them to be torsion. I don't want this thing to flex any. You know, the comment was basically, hey, if it doesn't flex, you're gonna break this shaft, or you know, you're gonna break something. But this is what this thing's made to do. It's not gonna break. It's made to keep this body from rolling. Obviously everything's got to be welded solid. And I have had somebody mention something about this same exact kit maybe buckled one of the arms. And so what I'll probably do is I'll put some plates on the top and bottom, or maybe just the bottom. Kind of leave that top exposed for looks, just to be sure that it's not going to go anywhere. I have a lot of people ask me about the body line on the back of this thing, how it's going to kind of traverse around those rear tires and such. And so I decided to take just a couple minutes, take some aluminum, shrink it and stretch it, and kind of get that body line the way that I envision it, put it on the car so I can show you guys. Okay. Go. Jump. All right, go. Move it over. All right, that's it. So So I get a lot of questions about how the back of this thing is going to look. And to be honest with you, I don't really know 100%. I mean, I have ideas of what I want this thing to look like. I kind of know how I want it to come around the tire. I know how I want the back to look. I've got an idea of what kind of window opening this is going to have and what's going to cover the radiator and how the venting will be for the radiator and that sort of thing. But I don't know 100%. It's going to be one of those deals as I go through this build, as it talks to me, as I put it together, it will talk to me and it'll kind of mold itself as we go. But initially the idea is to have, so this will just be cut just like that tape line is showing. The body will kind of roll in like this, kind of come over the back side of the tire like that in here, and then wrap inside the tire and then travel, you know, down in here somehow. I really like how all the rear end stuff's looking. So the panels may expose a lot of this stuff. It may be in the open. It may just have something that kind of covers the rear end itself. May leave it all open. I don't know. I guess we'll see. The paneling will actually come down in here and tie into that. So that's the idea. And then obviously it's going to have some kind of back window. It may be like a V-shaped window. Kind of follow the lines of the venting that's going to be in here. And so at ride height, that's about the gap that you're going to see between the tire and the body. And then it'll be set up to where once I lay the body down, this piece will come down and just sit right on the tire, or very close to it. So it'll just kind of come right around like that. There's like 3 or 4 major focus points on this build that I wanted to kind of focus on from the very beginning. The first one being the really big rear tires. I really like how it has that Hot Wheels kind of look to it. And I've basically built this entire car around these wheels and tires. I mean, I had the body, but before I had anything else, I went and bought the wheels and the tires and kind of put them out there, and then I've kind of built everything around them thus far. So I want these things to be out in the open. I want them to be showing off. I want it to have that really big look. I mean, I think this is a 31-inch tall tire. I want it to have that really nasty look from the back. If you're following it, it's just got that raw tire show. And then some of the other focal points that I was gonna focus on was the turbo and intake. So I've got some really trick stuff coming for the intake. I don't want to give too much away. Not that it's a big secret, but I don't really know exactly how it's going to roll out. But the plan is billet, CNC, and carbon fiber is the idea with the intake. So I want a lot of carbon fiber in it. It will be forward mounted. Probably run E85 in this thing, and I don't plan on running a ton of boost, so not gonna worry about an intercooler. So anyway, tires, major focal point. Turbo and intake, major focal point. I want to show off all that stuff. The front suspension was gonna be a major, focal. There's not gonna be any body panels on the front of this thing. So basically the way you see it right there is basically what you're gonna have when it's done. Now obviously I will come in here and remake the whole firewall, gonna remake the whole cowl panel. All of that will be, sheet metal, bead rolled, quilted. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it'll have some kind of designs in there. All nice and fresh, clean sheet metal. But that's where the sheet metal ends, is right there. Nothing forward. It's not gonna have anything forward. At some point may come in here and put some decorative panels in here in the A-arms or up front, dimple dyed or something, but not 100% sure. I'll kind of fill that out later on. And then really the last focal point on this thing is going to be the interior. So lots of cool stuff going to happen on the interior, the floor, the tunnel. The seats are going to be craziness. And this shrouding that's going to go over the radiator will definitely be a focal point. It'll be on display. Going to have lots of bead rolling and rivets and all kinds of nice goodies that just make it look like jewelry. That will definitely be the idea behind this thing, is jewelry. I want all this metal to look like jewelry. I want to show off all of my skills. I don't want to hide anything. It's not going to be Bondo. It's not going to be paint. It's going to be all raw metal. Hopefully I can lay down good welds throughout this thing and be able to show those off as well. Oh, go ahead. also spent some time and started finishing up these X bars in the door. These are gonna be, they're gonna need to be there for strength, especially if I do the front suspension with the strutted setup. That hydraulic cylinder is gonna tie right in where that front upper X bar comes in. So I had to get those done. All right guys, that's it on the Bipster build for this week. Hope you enjoyed that. As always, thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys some more next week. Go do work, son.